So, guys, thanks for joining in. We'll begin very shortly, waiting for more people to join in. All right, folks, we'll just begin in like a minute or so. All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in again. We're at the seventh episode of Orbit. And those of you who joined us, again, thank you so much for joining in. Those of you who are new, it's going to be very fun for you because we're going to talk about things and then we're also going to jam a bit on fiction. So um, I think we can get started. I think we have a few folks joining in live from LinkedIn as well. So cool. Okay. All right. Thanks for joining in, guys. Let me give you a quick introduction about what this session is going to be about. We have Sumit with us here. Hi, Sumit. Thank you so much for taking on the time today.
Hi.
I met sir. Um, I met sir last year, I think.
One thing,
Um,
Shresht, sorry to cut in. It's Sumit. No, sir, please. As we, I think the first time
oh
it's
yeah,
Sumit.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, cool, cool, cool.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that happened.
No, no problem. I think it's pulled in my head for some reason. I'm
Yeah,
not sure because I met you last year
yeah,
at that event, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
so we met last year in One Thing Design. There was this session that we hosted, like a roundtable conference, and we met, and I think there was a lot to learn from him. And here we are again with a session with him. So
Mhm.
thank you so much, Sumit, for joining us today. I'm so glad you could take out the time. I know you have a very busy schedule, so thanks for joining in.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, I would say. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right. So I'm in Hyderabad. I'm not in Noida, so there might be some disconnection from internet. So please forgive me for that. But I think we can get started with Orbit. For those of you who don't know what Orbit is, I think I would like to get started with our episode video. So yeah, this is Orbit by Osip. All right, cool. So a quick introduction about what Orbit is. Orbit, these are five-star chat conversations that we have with people all around the world, especially world-class product leaders and design leaders. So we have one such leader joining us today. Thank you so much for joining again. And I think you could take the floor and, introduce yourself
Okay.
to the audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for that. I'll just not take too much of time. So hi, I'm Sumit Rampal. I am a creative, I would say creative problem solver, and I have been like that for almost 24 years now. And I've had the opportunity of working with, with global agencies. I have had worked in Digitas, McCann, and also have a very good experience working with startups as well as currently I'm in the B2B sector. So throughout this journey, I was fortunate enough to, work with smaller teams, bigger teams, and I think my journey has been, I would say, like a roller coaster, which of course every journey is all about. And after seeing that intro, I think I should start growing the beard again. I look more serious then. So I think that's a learning for me at least to, start growing that beard. So I look more, studious, not studious, but more professor like, which I like. Yeah. So thank you for reminding me that.
Um, it's so glad to have somebody with so much experience here today.
Hmm.
And I think that is what made me connect with you again. Because I think the conversation that we had last time, um, every sentence that you spoke had so much experience in it. I think that was one of those things that I want to learn
Hmm.
more about. Like I want to
Hmm.
learn more about your experiences and stuff. So yeah. A quick introduction about me. I'm Shreyas. I have been an industrial designer. I have not had like as much experience as Sumit has had, but I am, yeah, just breaking into the industry now as a business person, I would say, because I transitioned from being a designer to being a founder. And I think I'm now changing the definition of who a founder is, because I thought it was doing everything, but I think it is all about business at the end of the day. So I'm trying to learn that.
Hmm.
Um, but we started Orbit because we saw that a lot of conversations that we have opened a lot of threads, but at the core of it, everything was revolving around one thing. So that's why Orbit. And that is one of the reasons why we thought, we should connect with people. Also, we saw that a lot of people, when they host these sort of sessions, they end up just talking about stuff and not
Yeah.
doing anything. So that's
Hmm.
why we have that last 15 minutes for a fig jam session, just a fun session
Hmm.
for everyone. But
Okay.
coming back to the topic of why everybody is here today, um, I would like to know your story of building and scaling teams.
Okay.
Sumit.
Yeah, so I think that's a very open-ended question. I'll try to answer it without droning on. So I think I had the opportunity of working as a team leader or as leading teams as early as you know 4 years within. starting my career. One reason was that I was also a founder for almost 3, 4 years. So for that also, I had to, of course, as working as a solo founder, not solo, we were partnership, but then working as a solo designer, slowly and steadily building the team. And it was a sort of a good experience. And I just want to go back a step where you say, working as a founder is working as everything. So yes, it was like that. So I was working as even like how should I put the tea guy in the office, making tea for everybody and working on that. So, but coming back to the point, I think I had a very good opportunity working with some really good, I would say, people when I was reporting to, who gave me a lot of freedom. And I think two things I really appreciated from them was they trusted me. Even when I was, a team leader, they said, "Okay, go ahead and do it." And the second thing was, I had a lot of freedom, taking decisions. And I think that was the my starting point of, sort of building teams. And it was not always a success. I had a lot of, as everybody, I had a lot of failures. When I say failures, there was a time when I was leading team of 5, 6 people, and ultimately I was the person who was working in the office, and everybody was going home because I had that understanding of a new team member. I had to prove myself, and I wanted everything perfect. I wanted so I I was the person who said, everything has to be according to my standards, which is a good thing to have as a leader. I would not say leader, but as a team leader, or even as a creative head or whatever position you are, you want that.
Mm.
You say that I am at this position, everything should go according to me. And I think that was the time when I understood, and it was told to me by my boss. I'll give you an example. It's a very simple anecdote. I was working in one of the agencies, and every Friday, the agency world, every Friday, everybody used to go out for, just enjoy, have a couple of drinks. And it was the second Friday, like 2 consecutive Fridays, I was sitting at the office at 9:30 in the night and working on something. Like my boss came and he says, Sumit, what are you doing? And he used to call me Rampal sir. Rampal sir, kya kar rahe ho? I said, like, I'm working on this. This has to go to the client. I said, what happened? And why is everybody out? He said, no, they did it, but I didn't like it. So, I am working on it. So he gave a very good statement. He said, you know what? I think what will happen is you will keep doing the work for everybody else. And what will happen is you will ultimately become the bottleneck. Because if everything goes through you, you have 24 hours. And even if you give 24 hours, your work will not finish. I think that was the time, I think that was my first lesson when I started, looking at delegating more work. And with delegation, believe it or not, it is not an easy task, because when you delegate something, you have to be very brave, I would say, because you are giving some work to somebody, and they are good people. I'm not saying that, but it's for the first few months, believe it or not, I was very afraid. So I used to give out work. That was my second learning, where I used to hover over people. Today
Mm.
people call it micromanagement. So I used to hover everybody. Are you okay? Are you able to understand? And one fine day, one of the junior designers, he just stood up and he says, "Pure, मैं ऐसे काम नहीं कर सकता. I can't work like this. You can't just sit on my head and make me do it. I'm not comfortable." I think that was my second lesson. So, trying to not doing that, it does take a lot of effort as to give out that kind of work and still sort of expect the best of the best to your standards. And but I think these were the few, and it is good thing that I was at that time leading small teams, because the largest team I've handled, I think in my current organization, I had a team of almost 110 people. So you see, you can't do that. You can't do that with 110 people. You can't just sit down. But yes, I still was on the floor, of course, before COVID when you were working. from a centralized location. I was on the floor always, talking to people, talking to that. So I think the journey has been, as I said, it's a learning journey for me, and it's still a learning journey because I learned a lot when we were remote. When we became fully remote, I had to relearn a lot of stuff. How to
mm,
still, sort of have the motivation for the team members, and I think creative people somewhere down the line, it is a bit difficult task to manage them because believe it or not, even I have that. Every designer, every creative person, we all have a certain ego. I'm the best, and then
mm,
to manage that remotely becomes a task. So again, as I said, I'm still learning. I'm not saying I'm the sort of guy who knows everything. And again, what I speak, and this is a caveat. What I'm going to talk about, I think that has been my experience, and it's all practical. So I'm not going to talk about something which I've read somewhere. But yeah, I read a lot.
mm.
But I think this is what I want to talk about. This is more of from my personal experience. It might not work for everybody. Thankfully, it has
Yeah.
worked for me, and to
Mm,
certain people who were working with me and reached to that level, they have told me that it's working for them also. So again, from my experience, I'm gonna tell. So again, that's my experience of managing teams and scaling them up. So as I said, I've worked with as small as team members as three and up to 110. And scaling is difficult, but yes, it is doable. So yeah, that has been
mm.
my journey till now.
Wow, interesting. So many threads. I'll open them one by one. Um, I think in the beginning you said that building trust and giving that space to work were
Yeah.
one of those initial learnings when you were, building that
Mhm.
team. Um, so I think my first question is going to be about this only. Um, how do you trust people with whatever work you're sort of delegating to, and
Mhm.
how do people trust you with that work? Like from both sides, if you could talk about
Yeah. Yeah. So I think trust is, I think it comes twofold. The first aspect too is I'll be honest, having the right people in your team. Having people who can not only understand. It is not about understanding. It is about having the people. Again, when I hire, I think one of the most important traits I look at is curiosity. Like if a
it?
person is curious, and again, here is my take on to this fact that I you can teach somebody a tool in weeks, maybe in months in today's date, and you have but you can't teach them to be curious. That's an internal sort of trait. And I think if you got curious people, I think that's the first thing, because curious people are sort of people who sort of take that challenge sometimes upfront, who are up for grabs and take that extra responsibility. Because I've seen people who even if you give them that responsibility, they say no, 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 no. I think I'm happy where I am. But then what happens is those again. I think you should have diversity in your team also. You should have those kind of people. But then I think trust comes to the fact when you know that this person will be able to do it. It's like I think this person can manage it, and
Mm,
and that trust builds on time. It's not a one time thing. And trust is, again, as you said, is
yeah.
again, everybody knows it's it's uh it has to be not in one day. It takes weeks. Sometimes it takes months. And this is where, as a team leader, I always used to support that. So my logic, not logic, my thinking is that I used to give, work to delegate work. And my simple statement to them was, don't worry if something goes wrong. If you don't do it right, okay, um, I'll take the brunt of it. And I've done that. If something screws up, it is my responsibility. But if something good happens, that is what you've earned. So that actually
Mm,
automatically builds the trust. So if let's say if I
yeah.
sit in front of my stakeholders or my management, and something goes wrong, and I put the
mm,
person in front. Yeah, he didn't do it. He was not able to do it. I delegated him and he was not able to perform. It is not my problem. It is my problem. Because if
yeah,
my team member is not performing, it is my problem. It's as simple as that. And it's like,
mm,
and it goes top down. If I am able to trust them and I am able to, take I would say the bullet. Now, bullet is a very strong word, but if I'm able to take the bricks for them, they will do
yeah,
anything and everything for me, and it has worked for me. So I'll tell you, there were cases when, in some time, you are overworked. Your team is working on, Monday to Friday, and I'm talking about the agency world. Even in the current scenario, sometimes a client deadline comes in. We need it. Do whatever it is done. We need it, and that is the time when you can trust your people. And I've had people, my let's say we have a big structure, so my leaders coming to me, or my managers coming to me. Nobody wants to stay, sort of, work on weekends or something. So my first thing is, I let's have a meetup, let's have a call. And my first option is to tell them is, okay guys, the first thing what I'll do is I'll be online. Like, even before COVID, like, if we had to work on a Saturday, I was the first person, not first person, but I was also there. So that builds
mm,
sometimes actions also give you that trust between the team members, that I am there. So,
yeah,
I used to do very small things. It's like, I remember, if we work on Saturday, have a samosa party. It's not that, just, I know there are 40 people, just get samosas for all of them. Everybody enjoys. So I think the trust building is difficult, and it
mm,
happens both ways. So when I delegate work, I trust them and I tell them, listen, I'm trusting you, even, but don't worry if you screw up. And my mantra to do is, I tell them, you can screw up every time you work. No problem. I have no problem, but don't screw up on the same thing. At
mm,
least
yeah,
learn from it. So that tells me that
yeah,
you're learning. And that, again, that builds the trust. If I'm very happy if a team member uh, makes a mistake, which is a new mistake.
mm,
So at least they're
mm,
learning from what they're doing. So and it's a two-way process. So if I have their back, they have my back. So then that has, I think for the past almost 18, 19 years, I've been able to build that kind of confidence with the teams I've worked in. And yeah, so I think that is how I think you're able to build trust. But I would just end to by saying is, it's a slow process. And as a manager or as a team leader, you have to step up. Again, you can't expect just, delegating it and telling them, Jao. You have to give the ownership,
yeah,
but then you have to give the autonomy also, because then let them take the decisions. Don't micromanage them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, I just remembered this book. I think it was India 2020 by APJ Abdul Kalam. I'm not
Hmm.
sure which book it was, but there
Hmm.
was this very interesting story wherein um, I think APJ Abdul Kalam was one of those people who was responsible for this rocket launch,
Yeah.
and he sort of messed up. But I think it was something like this, and one of his leaders took all the blame
Yeah.
because he did not want to put the blame on them, and that's how he learned what leadership truly actually meant. So yeah, very interesting. Um, Also, I think you touched upon the topic of micromanagement. And
Yeah.
this is a very interesting topic I want to talk about.
Hmm.
I was listening to this. I think an interview of the co-founder of Airbnb, Brian Chesky, and he was saying that although a lot of people say that you should not micromanage, I think they don't understand the term micromanagement in
Hmm.
general. Um, whenever you're delegating something, there is some level of expectation that you sort of set
Yeah.
in your head, right?
Hmm.
So I want to know like your definition of what do you think micromanagement is? What should be done? What not should be done?
Yeah. So I think you said it. The last sentence you said, the expectations within my head, and that is the biggest problem. If you do
Mm,
not clarify your expectations, because listen, you're giving the ownership and the you're delegating work, but you can't say do it. Yeah, yeah, this is it, this is what it is. But then you have to set the expectations right. And I think that is the
mm,
one of the things, delegation really works well when you set the expectations right. You know what, I am giving you this is the task, and have a conversation, because you can't just forward an email. And believe me, and that's the worst way to do it, that you get a client email and you forward it, look at the mail trail and do it. And that's not what
mm,
that's not delegation. And I think that is the worst. And don't also do is, yeah, go through each and every point and write that point, acha isme ye kar dena, at point 2 you should do this, you should do this. I think for me, one thing is setting the expectation right, because then your team member exactly knows what they want, what they have to do. And then what I do
mm,
is, because you've set the boundary box for them, as I said, I call it the creative sandbox. You have set the boundary for them, but then how they manage it, it's up to them. But
yeah.
I always had an open door policy. So I used to tell my team members, listen, let's say the deadline is on Friday. Okay, I used to play a little trick on them. I said deadline is Thursday first. The reason is because I have 24 hours. If I have to, roll up my sleeves and do it myself, I'm happy to do that. But I used to tell my team members, I still tell my team members, if you have a problem and I give you something on Monday and you found a problem on Tuesday, don't come to me on
Mm,
Thursday that I was facing a problem and I was not able to do it. So again, I
yeah.
have an open door. You can always call me, ping me, and we can get on a call. If you have a problem, if the expectations are not correct, or there's a problem of understanding that. But what I don't do is, again, here is my ticket. I tell them, deadline is Thursday, or sometimes I ask them, if it's an open deadline, by when can you give it? Okay. Sometimes people say, I'll give it, tomorrow. I generally then ask them, listen, go back, review it, understand it,
Yeah.
and then give me a timeline. Otherwise, what will happen is, if you tell me Tuesday and I tell my client Wednesday and you are not able to do it, you'll get screwed, I'll get
Mm,
screwed. Sorry to use that word. But
yeah.
then, so what?
Mm,
But what I feel micromanagement is, become a, again, helicopter. Like pinging them on Tuesday morning, kya chal raha hai? What is the status? you know and then Tuesday evening, do you have anything for me to review? I'm getting, what is this show me work in progress. Because in that case, what happens is, you are actually, one, what I feel is, what happens is, you are, anyways, the member is tense, because it is the first time, or
mm,
sometime they're doing something on their own, and you're still
mm,
hovering over them. Ye hua ki nahi hua, is it done? You're actually increasing the stress levels for them. and
yeah.
and just to appease you, and it has happened, and just to appease you, they will give you some random stuff which they've not thought about, just to say that,
Mm,
internal, my boss is asking me, show it to me on Tuesday. And their aim becomes to, pacify, or, satisfy my, rather than looking at the bigger picture and, solve the client's problem. So I think, for me, micromanaging is, sort of keeping tabs on your team members all the
mm,
time, which I generally don't do. It's like, if you, okay, if yes, if
mm,
you are moving out, or even like when we used to sit in office, if you are going out for, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, let me know. Because then what happens is, at least I know where my team members is. If my boss asks, where is your, this member, I should have an answer. So
mm,
micromanagement is, something like, keep telling me, and I've sorry, I'm saying this, but I've seen some managers telling, when you work remotely, keep your camera on.
mm,
I want to see you working. I like, so again, that is what micromanagement is. And what you're doing
yeah.
is, a person is already stressed with the task. And if you even shackle them with these things, they will not be able to, think. Then what is the reason of giving that ownership, if you're not letting them own
Mm,
that stuff? Ownership
mm,
is,
mm,
let them do it, let them grind it out. And if they face problems, but be there always for them. It's not me कि वो आपने उनको, you push them on the deep end of the pool and tell them, yes, sometimes it is good, but you should all the lifeguard is always there. You can't
Mm.
just let them, just swim without anything, or just let them go down. So be the lifeguard, be always there, and tell them, listen, I'm there. If you have an issue or you're getting stuck somewhere, let's work together. So I think for me, micromanagement is just, just not, again, this is where the trust comes in, the trust of,
Yeah.
if I don't trust my team members, I will micromanage. And it happens. I'm not
Mm.
saying that hasn't happened with me. I sometimes there are team members where that, and sometimes I put them on the spot by giving the delegate work for them, and I know they will sort of, you know, get stuck with it. And I know 95% time I know they'll get stuck. I still ping them, dude. You have a problem? Let me know. So that is the level of micromanagement I go to. Is like, telling them, okay, dude, let me know if you have a problem. And I think after 2 3 times they open up. No, sir, I am not able to do it. So they, okay, let's do it together and then figure it out what to do. And I think that is the trust which, rather than telling them "Unko samajh nahi aaya, you haven't understood, you're not able to do it," tell them, okay, let's, what did you understand? Okay, let us solve the problem and just sit down and do it. So that's what for me is micromanagement.
Very interesting. It, I really like the point that a lot of people don't raise flags on time, and that is one of the reasons why everything just keeps on falling down like a domino, and then
Yeah.
towards the end only is the only thing that you realize that there's a problem. You should
Yes.
raise the flags on time,
Yeah, yeah.
and
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 I've
I
learned
feel,
this.
mm,
Yeah, sorry. Again, just to add, I've learned this the hard way,
yeah,
because I was a kind of a guy who's never been, when I was working. So I used to say, I'll solve the problem. I'll solve the problem. I'll solve the problem. At the end of the day, when I used to go and, yeah, I was not able to solve the problem. I used to, I think, then my boss said, "That you should have told me earlier. We could have figured it out." And this was earlier, years of my career. And it actually, sometimes it is very helpful, and that's what I tell my team members. Listen, yes, one, you should always reach out. I think there was a very good ad. I forgot the name of the brand. पूछने में क्या जाता है? So, like, what does it? It doesn't matter. Just ask. People will help you. And when I am telling you I'm going to help you, why don't you ask? Just ask. Maybe somebody, not me, ask your peer. पूछो तो सही. Then we can solve the problem together. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you. You
yeah.
go ahead.
No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very, very great point. I think it's somewhat related to what I was going to
Okay.
say. A lot of new people that join in, I've seen, whenever you give them tasks, they're like, yeah, I'll give it tomorrow. But then over time, I think they sort of end up realizing
Yes.
that it's just not possible.
Yes. Yeah. So again, and I
Mm,
do this, and this is a very good factor. Why I do this too is because I want my team members to understand time management. I learned the hard way. Time management, I learned the hard way because I used to take up a lot in my enthusiasm and being a curious person. And as a designer, as a creative person, you always like the shinier new creative ideas you want to work on. So I used to take up a lot, and I never used to time manage. Ha ho jayega, I'll work 24 hours, but that's not scalable. You see, you
mm,
cannot scale that, and you can't scale that kind of working style. So time management is important. So why I do this is, I generally try to teach them time management. Boss, imagine, sir, कल तक हो जाएगा. अच्छा, कैसे होगा? You sign off at 9 p.m. ठीक है? Tomorrow morning, how would you do it? And then we have this, kickoff call, or sorry, stand-up meeting, which is for 35 minutes, and you're telling me give it by 4 p.m. How is it possible? Ah, sir, it is not possible. Then think over it. Take time, then get, and it actually helps everyone to get on the same picture of, they understand that when we give the commitment, one, think before giving the commitment, and then give a
mm,
commitment and follow it and do it. And again, I'll be honest to myself, I was always never the kind of guy, because again, creative guy, I used to tend to go out, deviate from projects and all that. I've done that. But lately, I would
mm,
say past 10 years or so, I've got hold of the time management part. I think pretty well. I still won't say 100%, but pretty well.
mm. I want to know about what, what are your values? What are the values that you look at when you're like building a team? Like
Mm.
something I'm trying to focus more on like culture that is being
Yeah.
built in that team. And also sorry to go deeper, but I'm talking about small teams, and then
Mhm,
probably we can get to how cultures evolve
mhm, mhm.
over time. So yeah.
So I think I'll just start again with smaller teams because again it's a very good factor to get in. I think for smaller teams, I one thing which I look for is two things majorly. Again, even for bigger teams, we cover that, but smaller teams, the best people who can you can be a part of the team are curious people. Again, I'm why I'm saying curious
Mhm.
is because curiosity is something which help people to just do more than what they want to do. And second thing is adaptability, because in smaller teams, you have to play multiple roles. Even if you are, again, I'm giving an example of a startup. You are hired as a UX designer or a UI designer, but then you do multiple roles. And if you're not adaptable, and this is a question which a lot of time, young designers, when I talk to them, they ask, should I join a startup or should I join a big company? I tell them it's totally up to you. It's if you are happy with doing one thing over and over again, join a more structured company where there are processes and processes and processes and processes. But if you are an adaptable person, a startup would be a better opportunity because that is where you get to learn a lot. And
Yeah.
what with adaptability, what I found is these team members are the first people who are open for changes. If I'll give you a very simple example, it's like Adobe XD was there. One fine day, XD Adobe
Mm,
says we're gonna closing, we have to go to Figma. And your team member says, sir, I will have to, I can't, I work on XD, I can't work on Figma. And then you start, those are not kind of people which I would, generally have in, even in smaller, like it's especially in smaller teams, because that is the place where you need people who says, okay, what is it? It is Figma, and it is okay. Let's look. Motif is there. Let's look at Motif. Let's look at some other, and they're open for it. I'm not saying they are jumping tools just for the sake of it, and sometimes it is a client requirement. I'll give you a very simple
mm,
example. It's like 3 4 weeks back. I was talking to a client of ours. He says, we are shifting to Motif. And I said, okay, fine. I talked to let's okay, we'll work on Motif. You give us the let's coordinate on Motif and all. But now Motif has, unfortunately, I think last week they're closing their UI and they're going the API way. But we are adaptable. So
mm,
again, so none of my team was saying, "Yeah, why do we have to learn that? Can't we just work on Figma and give them the files?" The idea is that because in today's, especially in today's environment where again I'm touching a very uh, वो कहते हैं ना, sensitive AI coming in, things are changing
mm,
fast. And at least in
yeah.
today's, or especially in today's environment, you need people who are adaptable, who
Mm,
who are open to change, who are not sort of sitting in the same thing. Okay, I'll only work on Photoshop. Again, that's a very simple example, but so I think in smaller teams it is all about curiosity and adaptability. And I think in
mm,
as these teams grow, I think you find the for bigger teams it is all about finding the right people at the right position. And then the third aspect comes into the bigger team is about mentorship. you know Finding the right people who are leading these curious and adaptable people in the right direction. You can
mm,
be curious all year long, all day long, you can be open, but if you don't have the right direction from your even the team leader, you can't do that. It's like then you're running around like headless chickens, everything coming in and you're just doing it. So that's what I'm so you
yeah.
have to start, because when you scale, the problem with scaling the team comes in, permeating the whole culture down. So if, let's say, if
Right.
I am open and, for example, I think 1 2.5 years back, we were looking at doing this sort of cross learning. We had a lot of print people. We wanted to bring them on
Hmm.
digital and learn about, and there were some
Hmm.
digital people who wanted to learn video. So I
Hmm.
think I was one person who, again, I joined in because our video team was giving some sessions. So believe it or not, I sat in those sessions. I said, I'm going to sit down because, of course, I know Premiere, but I don't know After Effects. Let me sit down on the sessions. And what happened was, because I was sitting there, people thought, yeah, theek hai. It's just not about me. They thought that I am curious. I want to learn this. And my factor was simple. I told my team, listen, I'm going to join because I am in the near future, maybe I'm going to just start, creating shorts or something, YouTube short, whatever it is, I should
Hmm.
have that.
Hmm.
So, and
Hmm.
I think it permeates from the top. Of course, it does. So if I'm not open and if I'm not curious, because I am the guy who goes on these chat groups and keep talking about, oh, see this, this is the new stuff that comes in, this is what where AI is going or something of that sort. So I think that uh, I would say culture mentorship then becomes very, very important in bigger teams. Smaller team, it is there, but
Hmm.
then mentoring six people is, yes, is possible, but mentoring, let's say, 50 people becomes a task. Then you have to find the right people at the right places. And I think
Hmm.
uh, this is what I do. I have been doing it for almost 18 years. So when I set up a team, I think within 3 months, I hire my replacement. Not that I'm leaving the company, but then what it does is it
Yeah.
opens me up from the day to day, activities, day to day stuff, and then I can look holistically over the whole team, and that enables me to go out and on the floor and talk about it, as well as look forward what next. Because again,
Yeah.
clients want something new, and sometimes you need to give new solutions, and that is where I
Hmm.
think as a creative leader my time should be spent, rather than creating checklists of why are we doing this errors. That is why I think,
Hmm.
that's why I'm saying hiring the right people at the right places. So when I hire my replacement, slowly and steadily
Hmm.
within 1 month, that person is doing the grunt work. When I say grunt work,
Yeah.
day-to-day activities. He's managing, uh, leaves, who's going on leave at what time, how to manage overtime and all that. It's just his. I'm there to help him, that's of course, but I'm not getting into day-to-day. So that is have been my, I think, mantra is like, within 3 months, I need to hire my replacement. So because then that sets the bar for that person to do the same for himself. So then that goes. I tell my in certain like in my I would say the ACD. I told him, hire your replacement, because you have to do something more. So then that
Hmm.
again glows down, and you do that to the team leader level, and that does two things. One thing is it creates a good environment of everybody, sort of moving forward and try to do more stuff. And you automatically create stand-ins, and which is very important in teams. Is like somebody leaves, you should have something, somebody to, who can cover that up. And it happens.
Yeah.
And people leave teams, and and with the I'll tell you what, with the last team I was handling, 110 people, this was really helpful. If a team leader
Yeah.
goes, you take a member, I know he's been working as a shadow of him, you just tell him, okay, you take up the role and we'll figure out in the next 2 weeks, either we promote you or hire somebody. So that has been my,
Hmm.
these are the values which I look at, sort of. So
Yeah.
smaller teams, it is about curiosity and adaptability. For bigger teams, it all becomes curiosity, adaptability, and mentorship. So I think bigger teams, what happens is you need people at the right places. And
Hmm.
again, hire again. This has worked for me a lot. Hire my replacement, and then I
Yeah.
shouldn't say this on everywhere. I enjoy it. Then you enjoy your day and do whatever
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
stuff you want to. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, you're getting more
yeah,
time to think about more things which you would
yes.
not get if you were doing that.
And
So
that's
completely makes
at
sense.
yeah, and at this position, that is my role. That is what my
Yeah.
my management team expects from me, is like, what next?
Yeah.
where what we can do.
Yeah.
And if I'm boiled down with the day to day, but again, it's a very nuanced thing. You can't just detach yourself from day to day. You still
Of
have to
course.
have,
Yeah.
eagle's eye view. You
Mm.
still have to support your replacement. So that's again going back to the trust and delegation and everything.
Mm. Mm. And I really like that growth part as well. Like everybody's growing at the end of
Yeah,
the day, every three
yeah,
months.
yeah.
So, so yeah, that's a great point. Cool. I think we're towards the end. I
Mhm,
think the last question that I would ask you before we get to the audience
mhm.
questions, we have a lot of them. Is that was there anything that you wanted to cover about this topic that we didn't talk about?
Uh, I think I I think covered. I think I missed one thing on bigger teams, which I just remembered that attribute. In bigger teams, one thing is very important is the processes, because
Mm,
then in smaller teams you can always sort of wing it. I'm using the word wing it
mm,
because you have 5 6 people,
yeah.
but when you have a bigger team of
Yeah.
50 plus or 60 plus, you should have processes. I think that thing I just when you said you missed something, it just clicked in my mind, because again, without
Mm,
processes, I think managing bigger teams become a problem. And I think, and but processes should be, I would say, created with the team rather than for the
mm,
team. That's what I've learned, because when I, again, here is my take. My take has always been, whenever I've joined a organization, every organization
mm,
already has the processes. Either they are,
mm,
you know, again, if they are there. So I've never done this. I've never gone into an organization and say, you know what, I am here. This is not a right process. Let us, this is what I did. The problem in that case, for I think this has been a very good point where somebody told me, if you go into a organization and you create a new process, believe it or not, it will take 3 to 4 months to implement that and get everybody on board for that process. So what I do
mm,
is I
mm,
go in, I understand the processes, and from my experience and learnings, I improve that. Because again, as I have that notion that nothing is 100% wrong and nothing is 100% correct. So there is always room for improvement. So what I do is I look at the process, and I'll give you an example for my, like, EKCS. When I started working, they had a process. All I did was smaller, tune-ups, and it worked well. So we were able to scale up to, what I think I hired. We created a team of 45 people in 3 months. And it's just like, I again, the mandate was to create that, but the mandate for HR team was like, I will interview each and every team member, because again, I didn't have time to look at
mm.
hiring the wrong people, because it was a client requirement.
Yeah.
We had to do it. So yeah, so that was it. I think that thing, one thing which I left. I think processes are important for larger teams rather than smaller teams.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never actually worked in like a very big team, so that's something
It
new
was
to
a
me.
learning for me. It was a
Um,
learning for me. Believe it. When
yeah.
I worked on it, as a creative person, processes, believe it or not, you tend to hate those processes. And it's an
Mm,
inert feeling. Yeah, I'm a free person. I need to do. It doesn't work in the real world, because believe it or not, it doesn't. I've done that, and I've faced that, because I've worked in creative agencies also. And believe it or not, it is always on fire. The deliveries are always on fire in creative agencies, but the B2B world is different, because you're working with more mature clients, and you're working with global clients. Over there, you have to have processes, to and believe it or not, when I know, it's a laughing matter that where somebody asked me what are your SLAs, and I first thing was like, SLAs. I had to Google like SLAs. I've never actually in the creative world, in the design agency had. Okay, okay, yeah, yeah, turnaround time. No, 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 SLAs. We need SLAs. So again, that was a learning period for me. So again, but
mm.
that has helped, because otherwise it's chaos. Otherwise it's chaos. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. I think we can get to questions. We have so many of
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
So many by KB, somebody called KB. Okay. The first question is, I'm managing a design team, but I'm not an experienced designer. What things
Mhm.
do I need to learn to be an effective design leader to my team?
Uh, that's I think, a very, it's a curveball. I think the reason is, I think, for whoever this is, I think you need to start first understanding what the designers do, what is their daily routine, what are they, unless you sit down with them, understand their daily routine. I would say, believe it or not, spend some, again, I'm hoping you spend your time with the team members, but I there's a fly on the wall technique, I think, in UX. Sometimes when we say just watch somebody in their environment, I think start doing that. Because what happens is, again, don't hover, ask them, tell them I'm just looking, or maybe shift your laptop or a system close to your team. Because what it'll do is it'll give you the exact things they're doing, the things they are working on, and how do they solve the problems. And yes, you will have to do some learning. You'll have to understand, what are the first, the language. Of course, there are certain terms which you'll have to understand, but I think what will really help you is spending time in their environment. If you're not already doing it, I would say that would really, really help. And believe me, this help. I'm giving for a personal thing, because in one organization, I was also leading the development team. Ultimately, I don't know how it came under my purview to work with them,
Yeah.
and I spent almost 4.5 weeks, almost 1.5 months, sitting on. They were on different floors. I was sitting with them, and then understanding their, I believe it or not, SQL queries. What are database designs, database structures? What it is, okay, this happened, and what will help you is, I started talking to them in their terms. Arya, Acha, what happened? Is it the database, or is it, what is the problem? Is there API, like, is a third party API doing it? And they started like, okay, yeah, he understands the world. So then they opened up with me more. And it does help. It does help you sit down and you, first of all, understand their problems. It is very easy to say, yeah, it is not working. Why it is not working? If the third party API is down, which I'm connecting with, it is not giving me the data, I can't do anything about it. So again, understood those nuances, why it is not working and all. And believe me, it gave me a world of experience of talking to tech teams. It gave me a very good understanding of then solving the problems of between the creative and the tech team, which is the biggest problems in product, is like they talk different languages. So I'm sorry I'm deviating, but I think the best thing you can do is sit down with them in their environment and see what they're doing. And I think you'll have to do something. I think some learning. Some When I say learning, uh, understand what is the requirement of the client. And with today's world, believe it or not, I'm not saying this, and it is a tool. A lot of LLM models will help you out. They can help you out what you're talking about, what they are talking about. But it is just that once you start understanding what they're doing, what problems they're facing, and you start talking their language and you start helping them out solve the problems, and you are a manager. I'm not saying, even if you are not a designer, you are a manager. You are managing people, and if you solve their problems as a manager, if you start solving the problems, they start trusting you, and I think that would start helping you. I hope I've
Mm.
answered the question, but let's see.
Yeah. And I think I've had one of very similar learnings that when I was leaving my job, I had to give like a farewell speech, and in the speech, I was thinking what to say, what to give advice as, like, because I have
Yeah.
sort of experienced that many people is in that
Hmm.
startup. And the first point, second point, I don't remember. The first point, however, was you don't realize the opportunity that you have in front of you, which is that you can go on the floor and stand
Yeah.
behind any team member in
Yes.
any department, and you can learn that.
Yeah.
And I've done that with teams. That is how I learned development in some ways,
Mhm.
and that is how I learned business as well in some ways. And in
Yes.
some ways, Also recommended them something based on my understanding, and they had to question their logic of architecture of
Yes,
why is it the way it is.
yes.
So
And
definitely
I
it helps.
think, and I think
Um,
you
mm,
might just bring out to the person whoever asked that question. You might bring a new angle to from your experience also. You might just bring out a new angle as you know, Shresh, you said you just tell them, and they might go, "Wow, I never thought that way." So I think
yeah,
anything could
yeah,
happen. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. They went silent, by the way.
yeah,
They didn't know what to say, but yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
mm,
Cool. I will jump a few questions here and there
yeah, yeah.
because we won't have that much time to
Sure.
go on every question. But um, the next question I want to ask is by Shambhavi, which is, did you find any changes in design workflow lately? I think referring to AI in some ways.
Yeah, so it has.
Okay.
It has given us a. I think it's changed totally. I would say it has. I think I would say we've been using as a collaborator AI as a collaborator for almost 8 months now. So I've we have a blanket sort of approval. Use ChatGPT, use Claude, whichever you want. And what it has does is it has helped us in certain factors. Our go-to market has, at least not for the product side. I'm not talking product or because we our deliveries are set, but towards going out for new clients, doing pitches, creating decks for them. So that has become sort of very, very fast. So earlier, even with collaboration, working with 3 teams, 4 teams, team members, we used to create decks in 4 days, 5 days. Now we can do it in 1.5 days. You know, so that's has worked. And I think uh, one thing which has really, really changed is which I think we've become more. Uh, how should I put it? We have become more observant of what people are writing and how they are writing, believe it or not. And then believe and it has become a as managers, it has become a not a headache, but it is something which I really, really look at, looking at how they use AI, because believe it or not, there have been emails. Again, I'll not it's not where here is what you asked. It's they just copy pasted chat gpt and just pasted it, and it was, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at the email, I'm in the cc, and I'm just holding my head. Yeah, come on, it's not that. So yes, it has changed, but I think uh, what good is that we become efficient in certain ways. With I'll give you an example. We use creative cloud a lot, and so with firefly coming in, so our mood boards have become faster. So our versioning has become, at least for the when we pitch the concepts, when we have to create, that has become faster. So we use Firefly. We use Why we use Firefly is because um, the the copyright issue. Adobe has assured that this is all copyright free stuff. The data, the training data is all copyright free. So generally we use Firefly because we work with global clients. So it's very topic where we have to look into. But we've worked with Midjourney, we worked with Dali. So I think it has changed and it will keep changing. And
Yeah.
the 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 flip side of the coin is, yes, there are certain roles which will become redundant. We are seeing it. We are looking at stuff like uh, creating. We do a lot of digital work that can be automated. That is something which is going to happen. And so, but it's a flip side.
Mm,
So again, it's but we believe that we are using it as a collaboration tool rather than replacing, you know the human in the loop is always there. That's our motto. And whatever uh,
mm,
is there, human in the somebody should check before it goes out. Yeah. So I again, it
mm,
has changed a lot.
mm.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question. Again, I'll skip a few, and this one I'll sort of paraphrase.
Mhm.
It's that how have things changed for you as a leader?
Hmm.
Now that you're probably working with younger folks, Gen Z folks. Not Gen Z, but that's not the question. Like
Yeah,
Gen
yeah,
Z
yeah.
is not the question, but
So
yeah,
again, I think I'm learning a lot. I'm again, I here is my take onto it. I inherently I'm curious. So it's like because I'll tell you one thing which again I have told my team members when we sit down and we work, if you find a problem in something which I'm saying, counter me. You have the full right. And this there have been cases where I've got a designer. I'm not going to say senior designer. A designer has come up to me. You know what? This is. I think this will not work. And the reason for doing that is that the day I start thinking it's like I'm the smartest person, the smartest designer in the room. I think I've failed at finding the right people within that room. I failed at scaling that team. The reason is because if my word is the I sorry to use out, but if is the Bible, it will not grow. So I think it's like for me, learning again. The reason with young people is you have to be a little patient. That is what I've learned, and unfortunately, as you grow old, your patience go down. So I have to sometimes, be very, very sort of be patient with at least the younger generation. You call them Gen Z, but then this generation gap has will always be there. So when I was, working within agencies, we had even at the younger generation, because every generation, I can tell you, we always say, again, this is a conversation which is I'm deviating, but I was having this conversation with my, uh, I think one of my friend's son. He was saying, what is this 80 hours a day? I said, dude, we did that 80 hours a day. Oh, sorry, 80 hours a week. I said, I've done
yeah,
that. But then
yeah,
how could you do it? He asked me, hey, you can't do that. I said, I loved my work. Because I wanted to do it. It was not nobody was forcing me. I did that. But with
mm,
today's and now I have a work-life balance. I'm not saying that. But if need be, I'll still work 80 hours. And I think it's just to
yeah,
find those kind of connect with younger generation. And thankfully, I am a heavy consumer of digital data. I read a lot, I watch a lot, and believe it or not, I can still, again, I'm not saying expert, but I can talk about anime. I can, again, there are certain, sometimes I always find these points, common points to talk to. And I think this is where the whole idea is to be open about it. I am very open about it. It's not that, I have yeah, these guys can't work. I don't go with that mindset. So my mindset is
mm,
if they can't work, find out why can't they work. What is the problem? Let's solve the problem. If it is not solvable, then we'll think the next step. But at least, again, this is where empathy comes into play. And I think just trying to understand the other point rather than saying, this is new generation is all, they don't want to work. Again, in peer group, I might say that, but not in front of, yeah, again, you have to vent
yeah,
somewhere. You can't just have it all in you. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, makes sense. This sort of reminds me of one of those leadership talks that I was listening to, and this one person came to this leadership coach and he asked him, um, "How do I hire people? Because people leave jobs in 2 years these days."
Mhm,
And this was a like very senior folk who was trying to understand how can he build a team. And the coach he said that I'm going to break it down into three generations. I'm going to break it down into my grandfather's generation, into my father's generation, and the current generation that we have today. Um, the grandfather's generation was the time wherein that industrial revolution was coming, and people were trying to build on, get jobs. The new industries
mhm,
were emerging and stuff. Um, the father's age was when there were jobs and you had opportunities to
mhm.
like change because things were getting settled down. And but you stayed there for like 20 years because you had worked there. Your grandfather had like worked all his life in that company, You
Hmm.
stay there for like 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and then you make a
Yeah.
switch, do something of your own. But the current generation, they are switching jobs every now and then because what they're looking for is not food, money, or water, because that is all given to them
Yes.
by their parents or the grandparents because they earned it at that
Hmm.
time, which they did not have long before. And this newer generation is now more into those happy moments. So they would rather spend more on experiences than they would on. So for example, even me for that matter, I'm sitting here in WeWork. The only reason is because I love the experience that they give.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
it is very costly, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
So
I
yeah,
totally agree. It's
interesting.
like it's like
Mm,
again, it's all about experiences, and believe it or not, I am my boys are in college, and they want to do same thing. It's like, one day they like this, second day like this, and so again, it's I think the current generation, and I think the one of the very big factors is the kind of access to information now people have. You see, when I
yeah,
was climbing in my career or working in my career, we never had that kind of. So again, I could work 80 hours a week because I had nothing else to do. You see, so
mm,
you never had Netflix, you never had, everything was, I think, on that. So it, ठीक है यार, if I'm not doing anything, I'll work. So we have weekends, we'll meet friends. But now, like,
yeah,
everybody has so much access to different things that they want to enjoy. So I think that is the difference. But yeah, everything, you can't, I'm not saying they're wrong, but yes, there's a balance to be
yeah.
made.
Yeah, very true, very true. And by the way, this original question was by Yashav. I think you met
Okay.
him because he's saying that he met you in one thing last year.
Okay. Okay. Maybe.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I think we've come towards the end of this part as well
Okay.
because I know there are a lot of questions left, but we will have to sort of
Mhm.
leave them. I am curious to know from the audience, do they actually want to do the exam session because it's been so late? Um, do you guys want to do that? If you do, then please let me know in the chat so that we can do that session. So basically, that exam session is about three things. Whatever you've learned in the session, yeah, there are sticky
Mhm.
notes that you can put on there. Whatever
Mhm.
action items that you want to do tomorrow when you go to office, you can do that. And the third one is like you can draw random things if you don't want to do anything. So, is anybody interested in that? Um, I don't see anybody saying that. I'm going to share the link anyway, either way, because I've created that. So
Okay.
why not share the link with everybody? Here is the link. Uh, Here is the link to the exam board. You guys can come in, join in, and we can get started with
Mhm.
the jamming at least. Um, cool. Yeah.
And just to, I think, as you said, there are a lot of questions which, were left unanswered. Again, I think
Yeah.
you already shared. We can connect on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to,
Yeah.
uh, again, I think after Shays, we should have a meetup of coffee or something. But I think sometimes he's busy,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm busy. So I think, but then yeah, online we can always look into it. Yeah, that's not an issue.
Yeah, yeah. So I just put in Sumit's LinkedIn. You can also connect with me. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's jump into the board. Okay, I see a few folks coming. Yeah, so the three words again. The first one is whatever learnings you've had from this session. Just press S for those of you who are new to FigJam. Just press S to paste a sticky note and write down whatever you've learned in this session. In the second one, these are action items that you think that you want to put into work tomorrow. And in the third one, you can draw anything that you like. So feel free to do anything that you want to do, random stuff. You want to play games, whatever you want to do. So I'll just put on a quick timer of like 5 minutes because we are already up on time. So yeah, and I'll also put in some ambient music, maybe lo-fi music. Yeah. Alright, cool. I think we'll give it like 1 more minute because we're already up on almost time. Um, don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We'll eventually get kicked out otherwise. So better to stretch it. Um, hmm. All right. Anyway, I think what I'll do is I'll share the link is with you anyway. We'll share the link again with you guys pretty soon so that you can have a look at it, and we'll also put in some templates or some resources so that you can um have a look at it later on and put things into action, whatever we've talked about so far. But again, um, yes, Dennis, it is possible. We'll upload all the recordings on YouTube. We are in the process of uploading the second recording, the second session. We're on the seventh episode right now, so it'll take some time for you to see that seventh episode. But again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. And thank you so much, Sumit, for taking out the time today to join us. And I think I'm going to end with our main video. So, yeah. All right. All right. Thank you so much, folks. Thanks for joining in. Take care. Have a good week ahead. Bye bye.